Greetings and congratulations from Touch History. I, Parvez Kamal, am trying to present the history of America based on true events, feeling the urge to inform the next generation. Today's history is about how the Transcontinental Railroad changed a nation. Now, start. The story of the
14.
United States is often told through symbols: the flag, the frontier, the skyscraper. But few events shaped the nation as powerfully as the building of the Transcontinental Railroad, a feat that stitched together a vast and wild continent and forever changed the rhythm of American life. In the mid 1800s, the United States was a country split by geography and imagination. To travel from the East Coast to California meant 4 to 6 months of dangerous journeys, either sailing around South America, crossing tropical jungles in Central America, or enduring wagon trains across deserts and mountains. The West felt like another world entirely, distant and unpredictable. But a dream began to form: steel rails that would cross mountains, deserts, forests, and prairies, linking the Atlantic to the Pacific in a single unbroken line. Many called it impossible. Engineers said the terrain was too brutal. Politicians argued endlessly. But the Civil War changed everything. President Abraham Lincoln, even in the midst of national turmoil, believed the railroad would not only unite the country physically, but emotionally, a promise that the nation still had a future worth building. In 1863, two companies began the race from opposite ends of the continent. The Central Pacific started in Sacramento, pushing eastward toward the towering Sierra Nevada. The Union Pacific began in Omaha, Nebraska, surging west through endless plains. What followed was one of the greatest engineering challenges in human history. The Central Pacific workers, many of them Chinese immigrants, carved through solid granite mountains using hand drills, black powder, and courage that bordered on madness. Avalanches roared down without warning. Snowstorms buried camps in minutes. Some workers lived for months inside tunnels carved into the mountainside because the outside was too dangerous. Thousands of miles away, the Union Pacific crews faced a different enemy: the vast Great Plains, a sea of grass swept by winds so strong that you could tear canvas shelters from the ground. The work was fast, sometimes a mile of track laid in a single day, but the dangers were relentless. Buffalo herds smashed through work sites. Tensions between native nations and railroad crews grew as the iron road cut directly across ancient homelands. Outlaws hunted payroll wagons. Disease traveled as quickly as the workers themselves. Yet the railroad moved forward with unstoppable force. Irish immigrants, Civil War veterans, freed slaves seeking new beginnings, and workers from dozens of countries toiled side by side. The sounds of America in the 1860s were the clang of hammers, the rumble of blasting rock, the shouts of foemen,
Agreed, but we
and
need
the
to consider
distant
the
echoes
eastern
of
flank
locomotives
as well.
pushing farther into unknown land. Money, of course, shaped everything. Railroad barons like Leland Stanford, Collis Huntington, and Thomas Durant became symbols of ruthless ambition. Some visionaries, some corrupt, all powerful. They fought for government contracts, manipulated stock prices, bribed politicians, and fueled scandals that still echo through American economic history. But beneath their names were tens of thousands of ordinary workers whose labor, sweat, and sacrifice actually built the tracks. By 1869, the two rail lines approached each other in the Utah desert. What had once seemed like an impossible dream was now a thin, gleaming line stretching over 1900 miles. On May 10, at a place called Promontory Summit, the final rails were laid and a ceremonial golden spike was hammered into place. Telegraph lines linked the moment to newspapers across the country, and a single word flashed across the United States: done. Bells rang in city squares, cannons fired on military bases, people celebrated in streets from New York to San Francisco. In that instant, the continent felt smaller, the future felt closer, and the world seemed to tilt toward a new century. The impact was immediate and enormous. A journey that once took half a year could now be completed in a single week. The West opened to settlers, businesses, and dreamers. Towns sprang up along the tracks. Goods, ideas, news, and cultures raced across the nation at speeds unimaginable only a decade earlier. Immigrants found new opportunities, farmers gained new markets, miners and merchants tapped into national networks that reshaped the economy. But the story wasn't simple glory. The railroad accelerated the displacement of native peoples, carving through sacred lands and triggering conflicts that left deep scars. Wildlife patterns shifted. Buffalo herds, once numbering in the millions, nearly vanished. The same rails that brought prosperity to some brought devastation to others. History is rarely clean. It moves forward with both creation and destruction. Yet, the railroad became a defining American symbol, not just of industry, but of belief in the extraordinary. It represented the idea that a nation could take the wildest edges of possibility and hammer them into reality. It showed the world that America was willing to build big, dream big, and risk big. For decades, the Transcontinental Railroad was the spine of the nation, carrying soldiers, presidents, immigrants, gold, mail, cattle, steel, and the endless motion of a growing people. It connected farms to factories, coasts to heartland, and dreams to destinations. And even after airplanes shrank the world even further, the railroad remained a quiet monument, a reminder of a time when thousands of ordinary hands built something that changed a country forever. Subscribe if you love this kind of historical storytelling. It's not just facts, it's feelings. Drop your current city and time in the comments. I love knowing history with true. Thank you.